Brahma Purana. Pipalada. Many years ago, there lived a sage named Dadachi. His wife was Lopamuddra. Dadachi's hermitage was right next to the holy river Ganga. Lopamudra's sister Gabastini also used to live in the hermitage. Such was the sage Dadachi's powers that Daityas and Danavas dared not set foot inside the hermitage. The gods once fought with the demons and managed to defeat them. After the war was over, they came to pay their respects to Dadachi. Dadachi welcomed the guests and wanted to know how they were faring. "Thanks to your blessings, we are fine," replied the gods. "We have just defeated the demons in a war. In fact, we have a slight problem. We no longer need our weapons now that the demons have run away. We don't know of a safe place where we can store all these weapons. We were wondering if we might keep the weapons in your ashrama. This is one of the safest places that can be found." Dadachi consented to this proposal. The gods left their weapons in the hermitage and went back to heaven. When Lopamuddra heard what Dadachi had done, she was not at all pleased. "You have done something that is most improper," she told her husband. "One should never accept responsibility for someone else's property, especially if one is an ascetic and has not material possessions of one's own. Moreover, you have agreed to store the weapons of the gods. Does this not mean that those who are the gods' enemies will look upon you too as an enemy? And what are you going to do if something should happen to the weapons? Will the gods not blame you then?" "Your points are well taken," said Dadachi. "But I had not thought of them and I have given the gods my word. I can't very well go back on my word now." 100 years passed. The gods did not return to collect their weapons. The weapons began to lose their luster. Dadachi did not know how the energy of the weapons might be preserved. He washed them with holy water and the energy of the weapons got dissolved in the water. Dadachi then drank up the water. As for the weapons themselves, they faded away once their energy was gone. Finally the gods came to claim their weapons. "Can we have our weapons back?" they asked. "Our enemies have become powerful again. We need our weapons." "That may be," said Dadachi. "But the weapons are no longer there. I have swallowed up their energy. Let me tell you what can be done. I will use the powers of meditation, yoga, to give up my life. Then excellent weapons can be made out of my bones." The gods were reluctant, but there was no other solution. Dadachi died and the gods requested Vishvakarma to make weapons for them out of Dadachi's bones. Vishvakarma complied and the weapon named Vajra that he made was truly remarkable. Lopamuddra was away when this incident took place. She returned and found that her husband had died. She was afflicted with sorrow and wished to immolate herself in a fire. But she happened to be pregnant at the time, so that this could not immediately be done. Once the baby was born, she killed herself after having handed over the baby to a pipala, fig, tree for rearing. Since the pipala tree brought up the boy, he came to be known as Pipalada. Chandra was the lord over all trees. The trees asked Chandra for some amrita for Pipalada and Chandra obliged. The amrita gave Pipalada a lot of strength. When Pipalada grew up, he wanted to know who his parents were and the trees told him the story. Pipalada blamed the gods for his parents' death and decided to seek revenge. The trees brought Pipalada to Chandra. "You are still too young," said Chandra. "First you must become learned and well versed in the use of weapons. Go to the forest of Dandakaranya. The river Gautami Ganga flows through that forest. Pray to Shiva there and I am sure that your wishes will be fulfilled." Pipalada pleased Shiva through his prayers. "What boon do you desire?" asked Shiva. "I want the boon that I may be able to destroy the gods," replied Pipalada. "I have a third eye in the middle of my forehead," said Shiva. The day you can see my third eye, your wish will be granted. Try as he might, Pipalada could not see Shiva's third eye. Pipalada therefore performed more difficult tapasya for even more years. Eventually he managed to see Shiva's third eye. From Shiva's third eye was born a demon that looked like a mare. "What is your desire?" asked the demon. "Kill my enemies, the gods," was the reply. The demon immediately attacked Pipalada. "What are you doing?" asked Pipalada. "Why are you trying to kill me? I asked you to kill the gods." "But your body has been created by the gods," replied the demon. "I will therefore kill you also." Pipalada ran to Shiva for deliverance. Shiva earmarked a region inside the forest for Pipalada. There the demon was not permitted to enter. Pipalada lived there, protected from the ravages of the demon. Meanwhile, the gods requested Shiva to save them as well. Shiva persuaded Pipalada to control his anger. He convinced Pipalada that nothing was to be gained by killing the gods. That would not bring his parents back. Pipalada agreed. But he wished to see his parents once. Accordingly, Vimana descended from heaven on which Dadichi and Lopamudra were seated. They blessed Pipalada and asked him to marry and have children. As for the demon, it became a river and merged with the holy Ganga. Nageshvara. There was a city named Pradishtana. A king named Shurasena ruled that city. Shurasena did not have any son. After a lot of effort, a son was born to him. But the son happened to be a snake. The king and the queen were mortified at this turn of events. But they brought up their son in great secrecy. Not even the king's ministers and priests knew that the prince was a snake. When the prince grew slightly, he began to talk like a human, even though he was a snake. King Shurasena arranged for the prince's education. After the snake had become learned in the knowledge of the Vedas, he told his father, "Father, it is time for me to get married. If I do not have a son, I am certain to go to Naraka." King Shurasena was very surprised to hear this. "How is that possible?" he asked. "Which princess will consent to marry a snake?" "I don't know," replied the prince. "But I do know that I have to get married. Otherwise, I will commit suicide. There are many forms of marriage that are permissible. Perhaps a princess can be kidnapped and married to me." Shurasena called his ministers and told them, "My son Nageshvara has now come of age. He has also been made the heir apparent to the kingdom. There is no one equal to him in bravery on earth, in heaven or in the underworld. I am getting old. Please arrange for Nageshvara to get married. I shall then relinquish my kingdom and retire to the forest." The king did not tell his ministers that Nageshvara was a snake. Shurasena had an aged minister. This minister reported that there was a king named Vijaya who ruled in the eastern part of the country. King Vijaya had 8 sons and 1 daughter. The daughter's name was Bhagavati and she was very beautiful. She would be the right match for Nageshvara. The aged minister was sent as a messenger to Vijaya and the king agreed to the match. There was a custom amongst Kshatriyas that the bride did not always have to be married to the bridegroom in person. She could also be married to the bridegroom's sword or some other weapon. The minister explained to King Vijaya that there were some private reasons which made it impossible for Nageshvara to come in person for the marriage. Bhagavati should be married off to Nageshvara's sword. Vijaya consented to this and the marriage ceremony was performed. The entire retinue then returned to the city of Pradishtana. But what was to be done now that the marriage was over? Nageshvara's mother sent a maid to Bhagavati. The maid was to tell Bhagavati that her husband was actually a snake and then observe her reaction. The maid told Bhagavati, "Your husband is a god, but he has the form of a snake." "That is my good fortune," replied Bhagavati. Normally, Women are married to men. I must have performed many good deeds in my earlier life to have been married to a god. Bhagavati was then brought to Nageshvara, and at the sight of Bhagavati, Nageshvara remembered his earlier life. He was a snake, Naga, in his earlier life and was a companion of Shiva's. His wife in the earlier life was Bhagavati. There had been an occasion when Shiva had laughed at a joke of Parvati's, and Nageshvara had also laughed. This had annoyed Shiva, and he had cursed Nageshvara that he would be born on earth as the son of a human, but in the form of a snake. When he went and bathed in Gautami Ganga, the period of the curse would be over. When Nageshvara recounted these incidents to Bhagavati, she also remembered her earlier life. The two went and bathed in the scared river, and Nageshvara obtained a handsome and divine form. Nageshvara ruled after Shurasena's death. And when Nageshvara and Bhagavati died, they went back to Kailasa to live with Shiva. On the banks of the Gautami Ganga, Nageshvara and Bhagavati built a temple to Shiva. This is the famous tirtha known as Nagatirtha. Brahma's head. Years ago, there was a war between the gods and the demons, and the gods lost. The gods came to Brahma for advice, and Brahma asked them to pray to Shiva. When Shiva appeared before them, the gods said, "The demons have defeated us. Please kill them and save us." Shiva went to fight with the demons. He drove the demons off from Mount Sumeru and out of heaven. He pursued them to the ends of the earth. All this exertion made Shiva sweat. And wherever the drops of sweat fell down on the ground, terrible ogresses named mattress were created. The mattress also started to kill the demons and pursued them down to the underworld. While the mattress were killing the demons in the underworld, Brahma and the others waited on the banks of the river Gautami Ganga. This place came to be known as Pradisthana. When the mattress had killed all the demons, they returned to earth and began to live on the banks of the Gautami Ganga. This tirtha has come to be known as Matratirtha. Brahma used to have 5 heads. The 5th head was in the shape of a donkey's head. When the demons were running away to the underworld, this donkey's head addressed the demons and said, "Why are you running away? Come back and fight with the gods. I shall aid you in your fight." The gods were alarmed at this paradoxical situation. Brahma was helping them in their flight with the demons, and Brahma's 5th head was trying to help the demons. They went to Vishnu and said, "Please cut off Brahma's 5th head. It is causing too much of a confusion." "I can do what you want," replied Vishnu, "but there is a problem. When the cut-off head falls on earth, it will destroy the earth. I think you should pray to Shiva to find a way out." The gods prayed to Shiva, and Shiva agreed to cut off the head. But what was to be done with the severed head? The earth refused to bear it, and so did the ocean. Finally it was decided that Shiva himself would bear the head. The place where Shiva cut off Brahma's 5th head is known as Rudra-tirtha. Ever since that day, Brahma has had 4 heads and is known as Chaturmukha. Chatur connotes 4 and Mukha connotes face. There is a temple to Brahma on the banks of the Gautami Ganga. This is a holy place known as Brahma Tirtha. A killer of Brahmanas is pardoned of his sins if he visits this temple.